Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Tom, and this is another installment of our midweek messages that will hopefully provoke thought and provide you some encouragement for the rest of your week. I can't believe it's November. I mean, I feel pretty silly at times. I remember in March predicting that by the end of summer that this would all be over, that it would be a distant memory. But man, I was wrong. But maybe the end of summer was the end of summer 2021. Anyone want to call August 2022? Really, I don't want to get this wrong anymore. So maybe what I need to do is just let go of any assumptions that I may have. And in letting go of any assumptions, then I should also let go of some of the control that I feel. People love the two C's. They love credit and they love control. First, we typically want control over our surroundings, of our happenings, our daily lives, and some people even take this to the next level. They are obsessed with control and they need it at all costs. We like to call these individuals control freaks. And in fact, when you look at highly successful people, they really do garner control of situations, and it's one of their strong suits, but it can also be detrimental at times. And then the next side is we like credit for the things that we do well, things that are going right in our lives, things that we feel that we have accomplished. Perhaps you are hardworking and skilled in your job set, or perhaps you feel like you're a great parent, or you're a dutiful child. Those things we want to be acknowledged and recognized for. It's motivation for us to continue to do the things that we do, and oftentimes, when we don't feel like we are in control and are not getting credit for the things we're doing well, we become discouraged, we become disgruntled, we become upset with the status quo for the way things that are going in our lives. In this way, I think about the prophet Elijah. Yeah, I think about Elijah's life, and oftentimes we read these little blurbs and we don't understand the gravity of the situation, the overall extensive nature of what's going on when we read simple phrases. But I want to unpack just one little part about Elijah's life, and maybe that will help you. We know as we read about Elijah that he, at the end of his life, at the end of his ministry on earth, that he felt worn out, harassed, outnumbered. Felt like he had nowhere else to turn. And we can see that in his prayer to God that his life just end. And I can understand Elijah's emotions at this time. I can understand where he must be feeling because right now I don't feel like I have control. Right now I feel like what is next? And it's hard for me to think about the next step. And there's nothing for me to take credit for, right? There's nothing for me to think, oh, I'm doing this well or I'm doing that well. But maybe I have the wrong impression altogether. Maybe I don't need to be taking credit at all. And maybe I need to be giving control to someone else. This is this is the thought process I want us to begin with as we read 1 Kings chapter 17 verse 1. Simply starts with, now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word. Now, when we find Elijah, we're not really told anything about him except where he's from, and we do have his name. First, we have to understand that Israel had started following the false gods of Baal and Asherah. Right? These were pagan gods from the surrounding area. The very first thing that we know about Elijah is his name. And his name means my God is Jehovah. Man, that is a stark reminder to his purpose. Every time his name is mentioned, it harkens back to who God is and his place of supremacy. So we have this idea that Elijah's point, his purpose is to get everyone from following the false gods and following the true God that is the Lord. So we have the next piece of information about Elijah. is that he says it will not rain for these next few years. But he doesn't give a time frame. Time frames are something that people can easily pass the time on. Something that people can easily say, I can hang with this for the next month or two. But Elijah just says these next few years, not giving a definitive time frame, which is probably the best choice. I don't think when Elijah uttered these words that he fully understood what was about to happen. Neither he nor Ahab nor the people of Israel knew what these next 3 years really entailed. The whole ramifications of this phrase. I imagine the common man in Israel thinking something as the time passes. Oh, it hasn't rained in a month, but that's done that before. Sometimes it doesn't rain. Okay, 2 months have gone by. Okay, whew. Sometimes it doesn't rain for 2 months. 3 months. Whew. Okay, that's a little bit harder. Crops are dying. Animals are not doing well. 4 months, 5, 3 years, 3.5 years. Wow. Now things are serious. The stakes are pretty high. Here we are 9 months into our current crisis. And I can't imagine what 3 years of going on like this would be. Where would your faith lie at the end of 3 years? Do you think you'd be closer to God? Do you think you'd be farther away? Do you think you would start to cling to the false gods? The Israelites, they turned to Baal and Asherah, gods of the storm and fertility. It's not by coincidence that that's what they started to follow. Here, I think in our current situation, people are starting to cling to the false promises of things like vaccines and medical professionals. Now, don't get me wrong; those are great things, and I'll be excited when they're here. But do we elevate them above God and His provision for our lives? Do we take things that are man-made and place them above what God can do? Now, I encourage you to read 1 Kings chapter 16 through 19 and look at Elijah's life and ask yourself these questions. Are you drawing closer to God in these circumstances? As time is marching on, has your faith strengthened or has it wavered? We're told at the end of Elijah's ministry that 7,000 never bowed their knee to Baal. But that means quite a few people did abandon God. So as we evaluate our lives, let's give God credit for who He is, for a God who does provide. And let's give Him control over our futures. Now, as we read this next passage, I want you to remember that it's not Elijah who is in control. It's not as if Elijah has some sort of ability that we don't have, but rather he petitioned the one who does. James chapter 5, verses 16 through 18. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Elijah was a human being, even as we are. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. Again he prayed, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its crop. How far would you be willing to go for your faith? Would you be willing to wait 3 years, clinging to God through the whole process? Or would you eventually give up? Would you eventually say, it's not worth it? Those are the questions that we all have to answer at some point. It's easy to say I will be faithful during the easy times. But as things get progressively worse, what will we start leaning towards? What will we start clamoring after? Those are the questions I can't answer for you. I can only answer them for myself. Thank you, and God bless.